Hey folks, David Stewart here. If you don't push, you're lazy. This is a little bit of an anecdote from, at this point, a bunch of years ago, from a guy named Apostolos Paraskevas. Now, if you have never heard of this fellow, he is both a guitar player and a composer, and does interesting things in both of those realms. And I believe he still teaches at Berklee College of Music in Boston, which is a rather prestigious music school here in the United States. He's originally from Greece and is in fact very Greek, as may become apparent as I tell this story. But he came and performed at the university that I was attending at the time, which was Fresno State. And being both a composer and a guitarist and being involved in both of those areas at the time, I got to know him both as a guitarist and as a composer when he came and performed and did some workshops and stuff with us. I also got to have him over to my apartment for a party and got to hang out with him and drink with him a little bit. And boy, he's a really great guy and nice guy to get to know. But anyway, this anecdote has to do with the composer side of him. He does some very interesting music, by the way, so you should check out his music. It definitely is not within the standard mold of what I would think of as like North American postmodern or eclectic music. It's very eclectic and very unique in its own way. But anyway, the composers, the composition department, I don't know what we'd call it, everyone who was interested in composition or who was a composition major had this little workshop with Apostolos where, we played some music for him and he gave some feedback and he talked about his music and things like that. And someone asked him this question: how do you compose music? And Apostolos stopped and he was quiet for a minute and kind of then he looks up and he says, asking a man how he composes music is like asking a woman how she gives birth. You just push, and if you don't push, you're lazy. Now, this was a great answer, and we all had a good chuckle about it, and we just thought it was an awesome answer because it was completely in a different trajectory from what the student wanted to know. What the student was asking about was some sort of technical, specific way that he composes music. Like, do you sit down at finale and do you plug in the notes? Do you go over to your piano and figure things out? Do you do chords and then melody? Do you start with melody then chords? Do you start with rhythm or some other weird thing? Like, what is your technical process for creating music? And he really responded with a much more broad, creative, and feeling answer, which was that you just do it. You just push. And really the emphasis is in that way just on, well, you just do it, okay? If you want to figure out how to compose music, you just have to do it. And you're going to figure out for yourself how you compose music and in what way you compose music, rather than, here's the specific way I do it and you should do it the same way. And I liked this a lot. I don't even know if I had this anecdote in my book on creativity, the Keys to Prolific Creativity, but I don't think it's in there. But it's a good anecdote to talk about this book, because the focus of this book really is not on, well, here's how you write. You sit down and you do an outline and you put these 5 things in the outline and then you begin the drafting process. And I've talked about that stuff in videos before, like the way that I do it and the way that other writers have done it. And same thing with music. I sit down and do this. I've done streams on exactly how I compose like the ambient music and things like that. But really the book is focused on, how do you put this in your life? How do you arrange your life, your attitude, your mindset, so that you can create your own creative process that produces the art that you want to produce. So Apostolos' answer was just perfect in that regard, because it was completely focused on, you just got to do it, and you just got to sit down and figure out how to do it and try until you get it. And this was reinforced by another answer where I don't know if it was me. I think I might have asked this. He has a lot of mixed meters in his music, and I asked, like, hey, where do you get where did you get all these mixed meter ideas in this piece? And he says, I'm Greek, and I write Greek music. You're American, so you have to write American music. And that was his response to my question about, like, where did these mixed meter ideas come from? Or like, how did you construct them? I wanted a technical answer, like, oh, I was thinking of these 3s and these 2s. A lot of composers would give me a really specific answer about how they came up with that. And his answer was simply, I'm Greek. Like, this music exists and is Greek because I am Greek, and therefore it is a reflection of me as myself. And you should not try to emulate that or take that and put it in yours. Rather, your music should be American. It should be a reflection of you and what's sort of embedded in you musically. And that also had a big impact on me because, again, it's a different sort of tangential response to what was there. It's a more direct and emotional response, which is really, you're focusing on the wrong things. You're focusing on how to construct mixed meter when you should just be constructing the music that's sort of in you, the music that you hear in your head, the music that makes you feel, that makes you really feel and have passion for what you're doing, not worrying about how do you incorporate a technique that some other composer is using. And indeed, I had an attitude for a long time of like, oh, I can pick up every technique that every composer's done, and then it's like a big toolbox. And there's nothing wrong with that approach to learning composition. I think it's a great way to learn composition. But as far as developing yourself as an artist, it really has to be about like, what sounds do I want to what is in my mind, what's in my heart, what things like make me feel the way I want to feel, and how do I compose them in new and original ways that fully express the aesthetic that I want to go for. So again, he gave that feeling answer, which was like, I'm Greek, my music's Greek and I'm Greek, and that's why it sounds that way, which is totally the correct answer for something like that, really, especially when you're dealing with somebody who was, at the time I was still in many ways a developing composer, and even now I would consider myself a developing composer because I'm always pushing myself to do different things in different directions, as you may have heard if you've listened to some of the music that's I put out on this channel over the last 4 years. So anyway, I thought I would share those anecdotes with Apostolos in particular. I thought he was such a good guy. We spent a bunch of time hanging out after that, like went to bars. He came and hung out at my apartment for a while. I think I still have his cell phone number, but I haven't talked to him in like a super long time. So I hope he's doing really good. And I know he had that vocal dystonia thing. And you could check out his music if you're, interested in hearing something that's probably pretty off the wall. Like I remember he had this one piece where he took his guitar and had a ping pong ball going on it. And his thing was, it's supposed to be like the ships in the sea, and this is like the ocean going over them. So you had this section that was just noise in the middle of the music that was supposed to simulate the ocean. Just kind of, he would put things in his music that was like that. I also remember one little thing with him. He said, for years now, I am obsessed with death. He has this thing like, I'm obsessed with death. Death is all around me, and death is all that I think about, and all my music is about death. So I decided to dress as death for this concert. And so he like had this hood and cloak and came out with like a, dressed as death to play this guitar concert at one point because he's like, I don't know why, but I'm just obsessed with death. So he had that as well. And he just kind of goes from how he feels in his heart and just goes in that direction. And of course, there's technical stuff that underpins that, but the big message is that the technical stuff really is just there to support what you want to do as an artist, and not be its own like goal in and of itself. Really, it's a tool maybe to get you on the way that's there, and I would feel that as well. The main thing is figuring out how to have your voice as a composer, and I really feel that way creatively as well, and that's tends to be what I focused on most in this was how to have the right mindset to complete your projects, get your work process underway to where you're actually doing what you need to do, improving in the way that you need to improve, and getting where you need to get as a creative. In fact, I have one in here called Break the Rules. I think that's the last chapter, which is a lot of these rules that you pick up that this is the correct way to compose this kind of music. Break the rules, meaning they're just there to like help you form something that's typical, right? And you can break those and you can violate those rules to do something original if you feel that it is going to be part of the product that you want to do. And you can break the rules about what's sort of expected of you as well. In fact, I think in a lot of ways you have to. If you really want to be creative, you can't be completely working within the box, or nobody's going to pay attention to you. What you're doing will be perceived as being boring if you're not willing to break any rules. You have to break some of the rules. Anyway, so thanks so much, guys. I'll see you all next time. Newest book is out, The Wasting Desert. It's a little 2-hour short read. You can get it for 99 cents on Amazon. Technically, you might already have it if you got the... Probably can't see it because the lights are off, but the Krampus Christmas 2020. I actually put it out then. This is basically the same thing. I think I just did some proofreading before I put it up again. So there it is. You can grab that and, I don't know, Leave me your thoughts down below. If you've met Apostolos, or you've heard his music, or maybe seen him in concert. If you have any anecdotes about him, that would just be great, I think, to hear. So thanks so much, and I will see you guys next time.